because that's what
you do in your live.
Well, that's what I do. I get on my Instagram all the time now because of reasons. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone, and welcome to our every Thursday live stream. This is a Q&A, so get in the comments and ask your guitar questions. Put a bunch of question marks in front of them so Leslie can grab them. Please use a super chat if you want to answer the question for sure, because we don't always get to all of them. And we'll drop what we're doing and we'll answer that right away. The other thing is, I want to thank my Patreon supporters and YouTube members for supporting the channel, because that's what pays for all of this stuff and helps us buy guitars and all of those various things. So yeah, I appreciate all of you, as well as anybody who uses the links below, Sweetwater and StewMac and Runway Audio, and of course Dylan Talks Tone, because if you buy pickups, that doesn't necessarily support the channel, but that supports us in general. So we thank you for that. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have a bunch of questions that came in from Patreon and I think one from YouTube, and we have a topic that I want to talk about tonight as a result of one of these questions. We're going to talk about bridges. So if you have any bridge-related questions, get those in the comments, because those will be. I'll tell you what. If you have a bridge-related question, put $signs in front of it. That way you know.
If what?
If it's a bridge-related question, like with the thumbnail, they can put $signs in front of it, or a super chat, which is not the same thing, but the same thing. Put $signs in front of it. That way we know it's about bridges. So we'll get to those here in just a few minutes. So let's go over the Instagram questions.
Instagram?
I mean, Patreon.
Mm-hmm. You think about Instagram still?
I was.
All right. Question from Patrick. I'm saving up to buy a pair, 2, of your P90s pickups next month. What pot sizes and capacitor would you go with? You know best on your work of art. Thank you.
I would say 500K pots and 33 cap. That's what I've been using lately, and I kind of really like it. I really like it a lot. That's what I would use.
Cool. Rob. Hello, Leslie and Dylan. Trying to better understand electrically how a tone circuit works. The pot adjusts resistance. A capacitor stores and releases current. How is a cap's value related to the sound frequency that it sends to ground? And how is this adjusted by the pot? Thanks.
So, tone circuit basically is a capacitor that you put between the output of the pot. Well, yeah. Actually, it goes on the input of the pot, on the input of the volume pot. Comes off of there, and all it is a variable resistor, like you say, and then on the center of that lug is a capacitor, and that is soldered to ground. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but that's the general idea. What you do is you create a shelf with the value of the capacitor. So the higher the number, this is opposite, but the higher the number of the capacitor, so like a 0.047 versus a 0.033 versus a 0.022 versus a 0.015, those are the 4 major ones. The higher the value, the lower the shelf, meaning the more high frequencies it cuts off. When you have the pot all the way open, you are not sending as much of the signal to ground, and as you turn it down, you're sending more and more and more and more signal to ground. That is a very simplistic way of looking at it. You don't even have to have a pot, but the problem is that you would have to change values of resistors, or values of resistors. It would be like if you put a 250K resistor in there, and then you took a 100 and a like that, you would vary how much signal gets shorted to ground. So we just do it on a variable resistor. A volume pot is different. That's a voltage divider. That's a whole nother concept. And it's 100% parasitic, meaning the signal doesn't actually go through the tone pot. It actually sucks it off of the volume pot, if you want to say that, because the path, signal's always going to go to ground, right? So the signal's going to be coming out of the volume pot from the pickup, and it's going to be going to ground. The capacitor creates a shelf that only allows some of those signals to go to ground. And then you vary that with the how much you let that happen with the knob. That's kind of a basic explanation of it. We have some pretty good videos, probably pretty old ones though, on that.
Now there's sirens. Shane. Hello, Mrs. and Mr. Talks Tone.
Well, hello.
I haven't seen that in a long time. Picking up on a theme from the live earlier this week, would you say pickup builders have a tendency to either overwind or underwind pickups? How much difference does this make?
We've talked about this quite a bit. I think that there are far more effective ways to change the tone of a pickup than underwind it or overwind it by 400 or 500 winds. And what is overwound versus underwound anyway? There are 3,000 pickup, literally, this is a real number, 3,000 different Fender pickup formulas, for example. I don't know how many Gibson ones there are. So overwound or underwound to what? If you call me and say, I have a 1983 Stratocaster and it's got these pickups in it, and you want an overwound pickup, I don't even know what's in that guitar. Like, there's no reference point for this, especially on the Fender side. Now, on the Gibson side, sometimes you can, because people, when they say overwound or underwound, a lot of times they'll, P90s didn't really change that much, and then they'll actually go with reference to a PAF. The thing is, you can do that. You can overwind and underwind from a PAF, for example, but there's different ways to make the pickup sound different than that. I think that when people say 10% overwound or 10% underwound, they're using marketing fluff to try to sell their stuff. Because, and I know some major boutique pickup builders that do it, and I don't do it because I think it's misleading. Because people are going to continue, they're going to say, oh, well, that pickup must be hotter. It's not. So that means it's going to be louder. Well, a hotter pickup is probably going to have a flatter mid-range. It's going to have a flatter top end, and you're going to get lost in a mix in comparison to a lower output pickup. So when you say, I want it wound, here's the problem. Here's the thing, the crux of this. When somebody messages my chat or they email me and they say, I want a P90, but I want it to be hot, I tell them, okay, just get my regular one. Well, I want it overwound. No, you don't. What you want is you want to be you're playing in a band, or you have an amp and you want to hit that amp harder. You want to be heard. The bottom line is you want to be heard, and you can't be heard, so you think you need a hotter pickup. Well, what you really need is stronger mid-range so that you can punch through a mix more. You need good top-end clarity, and you need that thing to hit the amp hard enough to be able to make the tubes dynamic like you want them. Well, guess what? A regular P90, a regular PAF, a regular good, well, I'm talking about good ones now, will do that with zero problem. You won't need a hotter pickup. But when you have a cheap pickup, it doesn't do that. And getting a hotter one doesn't fix that. So if getting a hotter one doesn't fix that, then I'm not going to sell them that way. So we don't sell underwound versus overwound or anything. That's why we spend all this time trying to explain this stuff, so that when people buy the stuff, they know what they're getting instead of, well, I bought this pickup and I told them I wound it hotter, but now I can't even hear myself in the mix. Well, it's because you bought a hotter pickup and you didn't realize what you were looking for. So we try to spend this time to do that. We were just talking about this morning. If you've bought pickups from us before, or if you have not bought pickups from us before, you can go to the website now and read reviews from other people besides me. And if you have not bought pickups from us, please, or if you did, please put your review of your product that you bought from us if you've bought from us before. I appreciate that a lot. So that other people can hear, because there's videos, pictures, everything, and see what other people besides me say about this stuff. The reason it's important is because we have very little product come back because people, actually hardly ever or ever, come back because people didn't like it. I think that happens a lot more with products where people say, I want a hotter pickup. I want this underwound. And then when they get it, I had somebody send me an email today and say, I want the brown sound from Van Halen. I want this, and I want this. And I told them, you know what you really need? You need a center punch neck, a hot 5 middle, and an 8-ball bridge. That's really what you need. I know what you're looking for, but that's really what you need. And it generally will be more, what you want will fall within that instead of me winding you something custom. What that does is that make sure that we give you something accurate to what we can actually do and what will actually fix your problem, not what marketing speak says. So I know I spent a lot of time on this question, but I think it's really important because these are the types of questions that are misleading. Not the question, how pickup companies answer these questions oftentimes is misleading. And I just think it's really important to spend some time on this one. So thank you for asking it, Shane.
Joshua, my Reverend bass contour, which I assume is a bass cut, really makes the rail hammer sound good. Assume is a bass cut. I don't know. Anyway, a bass with a rail hammer. If I turn it all the way up, I'm not a fan of the rail hammer. Wonder if I need to install one on all my humbucker guitars. I thought a rail hammer was a pickup.
It is, but it's a model of bass too. I think they have a model of bass called that. I wouldn't.
So if you didn't like it, why would you install it on all your guitars?
Because maybe he likes
it on a guitar but not a bass.
Maybe. I don't think so. That's kind of what I was getting to. I don't think so. I think I would not do that. They're cool, but I don't think they're as versatile, in my opinion, as a regular volume tone. That
was the end?
That was it. I mean, really, I don't think so.
That was the fastest answer ever.
I don't like them.
We have a super chat from Van Shank Guitars. Thank you for the super chat, Van Shank Guitars.
Thank you, Van Shank Guitars.
He says, how much difference does the base plate metal type of a humbucker or a P90 actually make?
So, nickel versus brass is a thing based on, that's probably the question you're asking, or stainless, is a thing. Well, first of all, you don't want it to be ferrous. You don't want it to be magnetic. Unless you're in like a Telecaster and you're engineering that sound. People will say that a brass bass plate, for example, is for cheap pickups. And it is, because it's cheap. But you can actually engineer around that. What happens is you get these eddy currents. Anytime you have a perpendicular piece of metal to a magnet, you get these little swirls of magnetic field. And what happens is that, for a lack of a better word, causes a bit of a filtering effect, and it pulls away from the inductance that's happening in the pickup. And so brass causes more of these eddy currents than nickel does, or stainless. So therefore, a lot of people don't like to use brass and they think it's cheap. Now we know that DiMarzio uses brass base plates, but that's because he said, well, I'm imagining, he was like, if that's what it does to the sound, then I'll just engineer that into the pickup so that it's part of it and it makes sense. So you can engineer around it. I know you're experimenting with pickup designs. Try them both. See if you just can tell a difference or if you can adjust it out with how you wind the pickup and decide whether you want to use. I'm not going to tell you you should use nickel, brass, stainless, whatever you want. Just when you engineer the pickup, because I know you're trying some scratch built stuff, just see what you think and see if you can adjust it to the way you want it with the rest of the construction of the pickup. That's what I would do, because it does make a difference. And of course, ferrous materials like steel definitely do.
We have another super chat from Marty K. Marty K, thank you for the super chat. I don't see a question here, so I will be on the lookout in case you had a question. Thank you either way. But we will celebrate that this is the first super chat from Marty K.
Oh, thanks, Marty. I appreciate
it's
that.
like a whole little celebration happening with
Well,
the one.
and
like
since
they
it's his
turn
first
1 year
one,
old.
maybe he hit return too quick or something and
It has
screwed up.
happened in the past.
Yeah, so we'll look out for a question from you, Marty.
Yeah.
Do we have more going over there? I think we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean,
No, it's okay.
I can only do one thing at a time.
No, I couldn't remember where we were in the list is what it is.
Nick, following up on your tailpiece height video, which shows that adjusting the height made negligible difference. Why are they adjustable? And what is the intended purpose? Presumably, it's just to increase or decrease the break angle off the bridge.
That is correct.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So I'm not going to complain about the storm because Jeffrey Egan is in the middle of a tornado warning.
Oh, is he?
But we're in the middle of my phone, normally it's it's going to rain. It was heavy blah blah something rain. I was like, oh, I've never
It's
seen it
gnarly,
say that.
man.
It just fell out of the sky.
It's crazy out there. Okay. Nick, this is a good question. And then actually, I'm going to grab another question from another place on Patreon after this one to go with this, because this is pretty cool.
I got the rest of the super chat, by the way. So
Oh, did you? Okay, let's do that super chat.
before you
Let's
go
do
back
that
and
super
forth.
chat really quick.
All right, Nick, we're going to bring you
Yeah,
back
because
in
this
a
is going to
minute.
be a whole thing, and this is kind of what the thumbnail is about. So
Okay.
let's handle his super chat.
Okay, I'm going to pop Marty's question back up here. So thank you for getting that question in, Marty. And thank you again for the super chat. Marty says, when discussing tone, why is there so little discussion about what's actually in the signal chain, such as the instrument and speaker cables, as well as the acoustic characteristics of the listening room?
That is an excellent question. And I think, and thank you for the super chat, by the way, your very first one. This is an excellent question.